What's up, y'all?
How y'all doing?
It begins.
Good day.
I don't know why my nose decided right now to start getting congested. Right as we were about to start the show,
You gotta sound that nerd nasally.
Flaven. To all the listeners who do not like hearing a runny nose.
What did you say? You gotta sound that nerd nasally?
Yeah,
That's what I heard.
Yeah, that's right, because you gotta talk like this with your plutonium and it helps out.
Okay. The sentence was a little odd. That's why I didn't really...
That's right, because that's what dorks do, right? That's how we go. We like to talk up here. We have no projection in our voices.
That is like the worst, most stereotypical definition of a nerd.
Puberty has escaped us.
I live in a basement. I have acne, glasses, and I talk in my nose. I sound like a broken dialect.
Oh man, that reminds me of what's his name on The Simpsons? Professor Frank on The Simpsons.
You can't play with it, children. You don't want to enjoy it on as many levels as I will.
Good God. All right, guys. So welcome back to another episode of That's Canon, where we discuss an issue, a series, or an arc. And this week we're going to be doing a selection from the vault. No, it's not a vault. 2015 is not that long ago, so I don't think we can call it the vault. But we are picking one of our favorite characters, Martian Manhunter, Volume 1 by Rob Williams.
He's definitely one of my, if not my top, out of the main 7 Justice League characters, is in my top 3.
I think he's in my
top 3 because of all. Bless you, man.
Yeah, I know. Sorry, man. Sorry.
He's in my top. Was your mic down when you were sneezing?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So maybe they didn't hear. Oh, they might have heard you.
Yeah, they probably still heard me through his because I sneezed like a fucking like a thunderstorm
in the room.
His sneeze is like
his superpower.
It's like Thanos' finger snap.
Every time Brian sneezes, half the universe is balanced.
I just saw Dave just turn to dust.
Man, that would be so dark if that was someone's power. Good
That's
God.
crazy.
Damn you, Brian.
I got distracted. I forgot what I was saying before that.
We were talking about how he's one of your top
3.
Oh, yeah.
Top
3 out of the main 7.
Yeah.
Because I feel like his power sets, just the things he's capable of, how could you not make him, like, if not stronger or a better story than Superman?
Yeah. I know.
And
he's from our own solar system, too. Mm-hmm. That's the other thing.
Right?
Yeah.
And as we'll get into it here, it gets a little dicey.
A little dirty
here.
But the thing about Martian Manhunter, the thing is, I've always thought that out of all the Justice League characters, even though he's so powerful and I find he's always the most underrated.
Yeah,
he's always that's what I'm saying.
It doesn't make any sense. And the thing, anyways, I don't want to. I'm gonna start going into the review. I'm gonna start going on tangent review.
So
I gotta hold back.
I'm just gonna add one thing. Before in the Reign of the Superman that we watched recently, or read, if you've read the comics, at the end of it, he has to impersonate Superman.
That was a funny
right?
scene.
Because Superman and Clark Kent were missing at the same time. So in order to cover up, to make sure no one has any suspicions, John Jones actually, John Johns, I guess, is it John John?
It's
John Jones.
It's John Jones, but it's spelled Jones.
But it's like a Johns,
Yeah, because there's a specific way you're supposed to pronounce it. But whatever.
Yeah, exactly. He has to shapeshift into Superman, and I'm like,
I like that.
How is this guy? And how is this guy not prominent? Like, he can shapeshift his power set. How is he not like the leader? His telekinesis in itself, the fact that he doesn't use his telepathy to like control people he could do whatever he wants.
He's the team lead in the Justice League animated series, right?
He's one of them. Like
he's one of them. He's not main guy.
Okay. I just remember him like telling them what missions to go on.
Yeah, well, he was like the Watchtower guy because he didn't live on Earth. So he was like overseeing everything.
I wonder why he didn't live on Earth, where all the heroes treat him like crap because he looks different. Yeah.
I don't mind, and I respect him, or even all the members letting Superman be the beacon.
Yeah.
But Superman is not necessarily smart. He's not necessarily like a tactical leader. Batman is. So Batman is sort of running the team from the background, in my opinion. Whereas it should be John Johns.
Yeah.
Well, I always felt like it was like Superman was more like always the moral compass because he's always like
which is why he needs to be the face of the company.
Exactly. Then you had Batman, who's like, well, if we're gonna do this, we're gonna do it right. And then John Jones was just like, okay, well, you guys think of those two things, but I'm gonna like delegate everything so that you guys could concentrate on what you're supposed to be doing. I always found in the animated series that's kind of like how it was, and then everyone else was like very independent on their own thing because they like, you know, you had Hawkgirl who was trying to find her place because she was obviously a double agent for a while. You had Flash who was just running around all over Earth doing his thing. Yeah. You had Green Lantern who was obviously doing Green Lantern stuff and only came back when he had to.
Yeah.
And Wonder Woman was sort of just like a general the whole time anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
So she doesn't really have any tactical roles. She just is muscle.
Even though she probably is as tactically inclined as Bats.
Yeah.
Yes.
Except for Bats is a bit more in tune with the world because she's been out of the world, right? Like,
Right.
They did touch on that.
I can't give her that excuse anymore. Maybe at the beginning, but she's definitely got to be more in tune with things now. I mean, if she's not, she's just choosing.
Yeah, she's not. Yeah.
But I'm assuming that we're talking about like the Justice League when they just started to form, like not Justice League.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. But even at that point, but he's right though. Even at that point, she's been on Earth for like 40, 50 years.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. She's lived through a bunch of different like events on Earth.
She's been on Earth longer than Batman's been alive.
That's what I'm saying.
And Batman.
So
is
if
still
anyone should have all this information, and anyway, it just goes to show. I don't want to say it because it might. She's not that smart then. You know what I mean?
Well,
like
it's the writers that don't write.
No, but again,
that's
40 years. Exactly. 40 years on Earth, but how many of those 40 years was on Themyscira? Because when she was on Themyscira, it was completely.
Since she.
You mean like since leaving?
In the story, she left Themyscira during World War II and came to help the world of man.
That's true.
And Justice League takes place in the 90s, let's say. That's true. And World War ended in 44, 43, 44. So it's like 50 years that she's been in the world of man as a diplomat who's worked with other nations and has fought with people and has been fighting to save the world. She's been on Earth longer than Superman's been on Earth. She's been on Earth longer than Batman's been on Earth. The only person that's been on Earth as long as she has is probably John Jones because he was in a lab that whole time since God knows when. I actually don't know how long John Jones.
And he's just been observing mankind from the shadows.
Well, you're supposed to be as a detective, not like anyways. Like,
we'll get it. But here,
start tangent.
Let's start with this, the elevator pitch, where we first off read to you guys what the description is on the comic itself, and then we give you our own take on how we would pitch this to our bosses as we rode the elevator with them to the top floor. This week, guys, once again, we are doing Martian Manhunter Volume 1, 2015. This volume is called The Epiphany. The pitch. For some time now, the Martian Manhunter has been lost in our world, an alien in every aspect. He has struggled to find his place even after joining the Justice League of America, Justice League Unlimited, and Stormwatch. Now his past has come to haunt him as an alien invasion threatens to destroy the world. In order to prove to the world and to himself that he is the hero he knows himself to be, the Martian Manhunter must make the ultimate sacrifice. What happens next is truly alien. Collecting issues 1 through 6 of the 2015 run. There's only 12 issues in the whole run, if I'm not mistaken, because they retconned or changed up everything again at some point, which is another issue that DC has. But
for purpose. But anyway.
But that's the pitch. That's the description on the comic itself, Volume 1, The Epiphany. So now our elevator pitch. Who wants to go first, guys? Who feels
I'll do it.
Okay, Dave.
I'll do it. So getting in the elevator, I'm like, yo, boss. He's like, yeah, it's like, I feel like doing the Martian Manhunter. He's like, yeah, man, like, we haven't done that in a while. Like, he was a detective for many years and he saw all these things and like, yeah, we could do a lead up to the Justice League for New 52. That sounds great. Like, no, boss, scratch all that. That stuff's boring. What I'm going to do is I'm going to ruin all that. I'm going to break him into like 6 different people because, he shapeshifts. So like he could be like multiple man all of a sudden. I don't know why I'm going to rip off Marvel for this thing, but I'm going to do it. And I'm going to try and give them different aspects, except for no one's going to really know that they're Martian Manhunter. And, all this to say, instead of being like the guy who survived in the last part of his race, instead, he's not necessarily the last part of his race as much as he was a designed weapon to destroy the Earth. And, he's been living a lie this whole time. I think it'll work. And the boss is looking at me like, that sounds stupid. And then his boss comes in, he's like, hey, we need to switch up Martian Manhunter. Sure, try that out.
So it's not even that you convince your boss; it's that your boss's boss walks in and says, "We need diversity. Do what he says." And then just walks. Yeah. Toby.
So mine was along the same lines, literally, because I can't even picture myself pitching this crap to people. I see it as like I go to the boss and I pitch an amazing pitch for John Jones or the Justice League, and then he's had this like copy on his desk for like about a week that he just read, and he thinks it's the greatest idea in the world, and I'm doing my best to convince him that mine is better, whatever mine is, but he wants me to write this one specifically, and I write this begrudgingly, which is why it comes out as terrible as it does, because there's no way to make this story sound to look good. I have no elevator pitch for this. This is just like, this is my boss telling me to write a story, and I'm doing it because I got to get paid. It's terrible.
That's hilarious. My pitch,
we'll get into the details of the story.
Yeah. My pitch is, so I had lunch with the Wachowskis, the guys who did Matrix.
Oh my God, yes.
So I had lunch with those guys, and they were telling me this idea they had for this comic book called this TV show they're doing called Sense8. Where they have these characters, right? And they all connect through their minds, and they make up kind of this one super person entity through their linked minds. And I was just like, I should pitch that for a character in DC and kind of flip it on its head, where it's like it's one person split into all these characters. And so I'm walking into the elevator, I see my boss, he's holding a Martian Manhunter issue from like a couple years ago, and I'm like, oh, that's who it is, because he's okay, boss, I got an idea for Martian Manhunter.
That's good.
We're going to take Martian Manhunter and split him into multiple characters, all different essences and parts of him, and we're going to try and tell this story. Wait, but that's not how the Martian Man... Yeah. We're being creative. We're being new. We're going outside the box. Oh, okay, I guess. I mean, that sounds interesting. You want to do a draft? No, forget the draft. I'll tell you right now. One of them's an old man. One of them's a young girl. One of them's an alien. Wait, what? One of them's... He is an alien. Yeah, one of them's an alien. Why are the other ones human then? I don't know, boss. It doesn't make sense. But I'm pitching it.
It doesn't have to make sense.
Exactly. That's the problem.
Just go with the flow.
Every version of this pitch comes down to, it doesn't have to make sense. We're just trying something new.
Oh my gosh. And you say thinking outside the box. This is blowing the box. It's so bad.
Oh my God. Yeah, I don't know, guys. I don't know.
I don't know if people are able to determine how this review is potentially going to go down, but we're still going to discuss it. However, going into the next...
What else has Rob Williams written? That's my next.
Oh, you gotta...
Okay, so let's check.
We'll take a little pause.
Rob Williams does seem like an interesting writer, though. I'm not gonna...
Is it just because he sounds like Robin Williams?
Yeah. Honestly,
that's not a good quality. That's the same way work that way.
The first time I saw it...
Suicide Squad.
So he's done some work on Suicide Squad Rebirth.
I actually liked all Suicide Squad.
Is this... he's done some Kingsman work. He's done Doctor Who.
Ooh.
He's done some pretty interesting stuff.
And I could attest most of because I don't know which issues he's done, but most of Suicide Squad since its start at New 52 was actually good. It was changing the characters to a certain degree and developing a lot of people, especially like Harley Quinn, to be more than just like the Joker's girlfriend. So
okay, so he's done quite a few. I'm looking at his credits right now, so I think whatever this was, I'm hoping is exactly the scenarios we painted earlier, whereas he was sort of conned or forced to write this just to meet some sort of quota. I don't know what kind of quotas they put on writers, but that might be what this is, because it is so convoluted. I started reading this, the first issue. I read it, I'm like, wait, hold on, what?
Wait, hold on. This has to be the review. Yeah. We gotta go into the next segment because we're gonna go on a tangent. I'm interested to hear this, and I'll explain why right before we start next.
I almost can't wait to jump into it.
I will explain. I'll explain quickly before we start going. This was my pick, why I wanted to do this. But we're gonna go into the next segment. So the next segment is what we call the what if segment. It's where one of us tries to pitch an idea of just like regular what if comic books from Marvel that have done in the past. what if this happened? How would it fall out? Do we think that would be good for continuity now? Do we think it makes sense? Do we think it's better than what is currently going on in comic books? So it's really one person pitching to the rest of the team this week.
To the panel, as they say.
Oh, good. Thank you. And this week it will be Tobi pitching.
What if Batman never recovered from his broken back?
Oh, snaps. Like his spine. That's pretty heavy, dude, because that happened a while ago, and there's been a lot written since then. Mm-hmm. So there's
been a lot, and we don't really need to get into everything that was written after that point. We could even just start from just what happens if that was the case. Like, you got that diagnosis saying, hey, we're never going to be able to repair your back. Yeah. So for those who don't know, Nightfall, right, is the series, where Bane comes into the picture and, breaks Batman's back. And if you remember The Dark Knight Rises, the movie, this is something that they touched on as well. The difference between the comic book and the movies is the fact that in the movies, if I remember correctly, and I'm sure someone's going to correct me if I'm wrong, when Bane sort of breaks, quote unquote, Batman's back, it turns out that they made it a herniated disc, where one of the prisoners, I think, helps him realign, and it took him about a month and a half, 2 months in the pit before he fully recovered from that back. But in the comic books, he's kind of like laid out, and he has to disappear and look for help from this doctor who has this amazing magic or some kind of like technology to help him recover from his broken back. Again, it's comics, things like that are going to happen. But what if they stuck to it and that wasn't an option? Because this wasn't an option for Barbara Gordon when she got shot in her back and she got paralyzed. So why was it an option for Batman, right?
Can I ask a quick question? How did that get corrected, by the way? Or was that just retconned?
What got corrected?
Because Barbara could walk now.
Oh, well, there is there's one version where she has tech in her spine.
Yeah. Okay.
There's another version where I don't think she's been shot yet. Like, this latest version of Barbara, as far as I understand in this, because this is, once again, like I was saying, for DC, I feel like we're in a retconned universe right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, the current universe doesn't take place in the same line as everything else.
All right, sorry, continue.
And there's one thing you have to know about Batman, and this is something that I realize in every story and every plot line and every arc, is Batman has the greatest superpower of all, of everyone. It's called plot convenience.
Yeah.
Whatever the plot needs Batman to be or Batman to do or Batman to say, that's what's going to happen, regardless of what we know to be his weaknesses or his strengths. So his greatest power, like I said, is plot convenience or plot armor, I think is what helps here. But what if that wasn't the case in this scenario? Now, as we know, after he got paralyzed, Azrael, John Paul Valley, took over as Batman.
Yeah.
And this was actually despite Robin at the time contesting with Batman, saying, hey, actually Dick should be Batman while you're away. Yeah. You guys remember this?
Yeah, this was Tim, and this is Tim Drake, right?
Yes. Yeah. And Batman's like, well, Dick is off doing his own thing. I don't really think I should be, he's his own man. So I think this is the right person for the job. And then you come to find out later that Dick actually was mad that Batman didn't even ask him.
Yeah.
And he went to Azrael, who's way more violent, who thinks the way to actually resolve everything as far as Bane is concerned is to just, pretty much murder people.
Yeah, he smacked people around and beat them.
Yeah. So, yeah, in this world, what if his back was broken and never recovered? And what if this sort of angst that Dick felt about not being asked to be Batman created some sort of Bat Wars?
That is very interesting.
That's very interesting.
Which would pitch Dick versus Azrael for the mantle of Batman as we know it.
So you're essentially you're bumping up that story, because there was that once Batman died, there was that, I don't know if you guys remember that famous poster where it's like all the Bat characters, and there's like a Two-Face Batman. There's there's Jason Todd as Batman with the guns. But you're moving that timeline up earlier, way
earlier.
Yeah, because that would be insane to do that so much earlier then, but it would be super interesting.
Yeah.
How do you think Dick versus Azrael? How do you think that would go?
I think because of how based off of how comics are written and how Dick was the underrated character, I think he would have basically won and would have solidified Dick as I mean, I think that he was always a solid character, but I think it would have been like, you're not Robin, you're not like Nightwing, this up and coming hero, you are now the hero. I think he would have I think if that would have been the case, they definitely would have made Dick become Batman. I think it would have been basically. I think Batman Beyond would have kind of happened, but like it's not Terry Guinness anymore. It would be Dick, and then Dick would be doing the same. Like I think a lot of the same things would have happened. It's just like
really. Do you think Dick has actually become that much of a Bruce Wayne? Like Bruce Wayne has made a copy of himself to that point, and that's why Dick is having such a hard time. He wants to separate himself from Bruce that much.
But but what I'm saying is that Dick is loyal at the end of the day, regardless of how angry he was about everything, because a lot of the becoming Nightwing was him angry at Batman.
Yeah,
but he's still loyal to the Wayne concept. He's still loyal to the concept of that Gotham needs a Batman or needs a defender.
Yeah.
He definitely would have taken out Azrael because he's like, Batman is, as much as I don't like Bruce, I don't like his tactics, at the end of the day, he's not a killer. I can make Batman, by being Batman, I could become a better Batman for Gotham. Mm-hmm. But what I'll do, like, basically instead of Alfred being Alfred, Batman would have become the Alfred. He would have become like how he is with Terry McGinnis in Batman Beyond, like this oracle of sorts. I think that would have happened. Or Watchtower.
Yeah.
That would have happened naturally. To be honest, if what you're saying is happening, I actually think that Alfred would be dead now. Because he would not have a purpose anymore.
True.
They would have killed him off. And I think a lot of the things that have happened, I think Jason Todd's storyline probably wouldn't have never happened properly. I don't think it would.
I think that would just gotten erased.
Yeah, I don't think that would be gone. I think Tim Drake would have obviously been still there.
So here's the thing too. We have to remember that all the Bat villains are still around, including the Joker.
I'm gonna let you guys finish because I have a different perspective.
Yeah, including the Joker. I don't think the Joker. I think the Joker would have won if Dick was Batman.
Or there's a chance. Go on.
I think the Bruce and Batman, there's something about his dynamic with the Joker that allows things to continue and not end. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel like the Joker would have known as soon as he's fighting Dick for the first time. He's like, wait, you're not him.
But you know what? I think
exactly.
But if anything, that's actually that's a great point that you guys bring up, because now that I just thought about it, that's how the Joker would have faded out of existence, because he would have been like, you're not the original Batman. Dick would have been in a situation where he's like, look, the original Batman's done. And then because Joker's always been attached to being the yin of Batman's
yeah, but
yang.
He's also obsessed with him. He doesn't like the idea of anyone else playing with his toys. He even says that in the comic.
Yeah, but he would have done a lot of stuff off screen. You know what I mean?
Hey man, Alfred said it best. Some men would rather watch the world burn. I think at that point he would just destroy everything. Because what's the point anymore? There's no game. There's no fun in it for him anymore.
That's true.
Or if anything, he thinks that being as bad as he is will eventually bring the original Batman out.
Yeah.
Because if Dick doesn't actually say like he's dead, if he just says he's gone, he's gonna be like, oh, he's somewhere.
I gotta find him.
I'm gonna figure out where he is, and that would make for a very interesting side comic book for the Joker, like the search for the real Batman, in which he's just being essentially like Mr. Glass. He's just constantly doing the most insane, violent things he can think of in hopes that it will draw out Batman,
the real Batman.
Yeah, and that would just actually put him in contention with like other superheroes. Like you'd see Superman show up, you'd see a whole bunch of other heroes show up, because he'd be going like, it was one thing when the Joker was doing stuff in Gotham and Batman was telling everyone he's off limits, I'll handle it. But it's another thing where Dick Grayson would probably not feel like he has the right to tell Superman or Wonder Woman or Green Lantern or Blue Beetle or any of them, hands off, he's mine, especially if the Joker's going well beyond what he usually does and is going like glass level, like blowing up trains, crashing planes, and doing stuff like that.
But and I also feel,
just to drag him out.
Yeah, exactly.
But if Dick Grayson was the Batman, I actually think Two-Face or Riddler would have become a lot more prominent, because he's like, Riddler and him always had like more of like a tit for tat because they're both like the smart puzzle guys. Even in like the Batman animated series, when Riddler comes around, it's usually Robin who's like going more about the tricks and learning the boxes or whatever's going on.
Yeah.
And I feel like Harvey Dent would have just been a bit more prominent. But it would have definitely been interesting. However, I do feel that even if that happened, I feel like by now they would have I think it would have been like, okay, it's 20 years of like Dick being Batman, but I somehow feel like by now, just because of how they do things, they would have somehow been like, oh no, a magic saved Bruce. I feel like it would.
They would eventually.
I feel like they would have done that eventually.
I mean,
really?
Don't get me wrong, Tob.
I like your idea.
What you're describing is solid. It's just that at some point they would invent the same way they did with Barbara. Barbara's been 20 years she was shot, but in Killing Joke, which technically wasn't a canon story per se.
Yeah.
Because Killing Joke is a story in which Joker reveals who he is. The whole story is about who he actually is, and then he shoots Barbara.
Yeah.
But in the universe, no one knows who the Joker is. They still are unsure. And Barbara still is in a wheelchair, which I always found weird that story was somehow merged, but the Joker's identity wasn't merged.
Because they're supposed to still do the 3 Joker story, no?
So possibly. That I know.
I hope they do that, because that sounded like a very interesting arc, the fact that there's not one.
Yeah. But here, so my side, I'll go super quick. In my version of this, Azrael ends up like either breaking or defeating Dick Grayson.
Oh, you think
that's what I would like.
Yeah, because Azrael is far more violent and is willing to go well beyond, and Dick Grayson has always been unwilling to go even as far as Batman. Like, he doesn't like how far Batman goes when he's fighting crime, so he's not going to go as far as Azrael. And Azrael will easily like break a leg, crack an arm. Like in the comic book, when Azrael takes over, he tells Tim Drake off, like, don't follow me. I don't need a sidekick. I don't want you. Leave me alone. I'm really not playing. And Robin starts and gets his own comic book at that point. And then Dick Grayson would show up with a chip on his shoulder being like, I wasn't even asked. Like, and would probably confront him and be like, you don't deserve the mantle. You just showed up. You know, Bruce might think you're worthy, but I definitely don't. You have to prove yourself. And then Azrael would probably feel a way about it and would, they'd have their own war. Like you're saying, a real war would come out of it where, like, Tim Drake is helping Nightwing. Barbara, I don't know if Barbara is in that sport, but I'm saying, like, the Bat allies would most definitely line up with Nightwing, Dick Grayson, more so than anyone. However, if Huntress is around, I don't know where she is in this.
She'd probably go on the...
Huntress is definitely down with some street justice. So she would be like, she might not necessarily pick a side, but she's not going to help Nightwing.
So this Bat Wars turns into some sort of a civil war.
Yeah. It starts to split. The Black Family, and then the thing is, Azrael at the same time is constantly going after criminals and is killing criminals. So I don't know who you kill first. Probably someone lower end, ventriloquist or something like that. Not anyone major. Like, you're not going to take out Harvey Dent or
I'm okay
Penguin
with Penguin going.
Yeah. So let's say he kills Penguin, but like him killing actually killing one of them starts to trigger the other villains and like, we're not, this is Kid Gloves Off. We're now playing this game legit.
So you're saying it'd make like Gotham even worse?
Yes. It would be be like No Man's Land almost.
Batman would become essentially borderline, not just an anti-hero, but like a villain of the villains.
Yeah. Yes.
Like he's a villain to everybody, but he's also a villain to the villains because he's trying to stop the villains, but he's also a villain to the heroes because he's like, he's going
too far.
Yeah. You have to envision a world where he just gets power hungry and bloodthirsty.
The only thing with my story is that arc ends quick because he's not going to be able to maintain that for a long time.
Sustain it?
Yeah, because he doesn't have Batman's knowledge of the superheroes. So when the superheroes eventually do start to say, okay, we got to step in. He's killed Penguin. He's killed this person. The Gotham is like going into turmoil. Like the villain, like the petty crime guys on the street aren't doing as much because they see bosses are being killed. But at the same time, the big guys are raging a serious war. Like Two-Face, Joker, all those guys are running around. Azrael's killing people. The other Bat family is fighting against him.
You know what? I'm gonna add another layer to your killing list. I think you would kill a hero, kill a villain that would be like, that would turn like the Robins of the world, like the allies, to turn to the heroes, be like, yo, we really need help. This is happening. And they'd be like, yo, killing happens all the time. This is not cool. Like, just try and handle it. And I think you'd end up killing one of the allies And then that's when the heroes would be like, okay, that's it. We've had enough.
Yeah.
This is not good.
I can see that.
Like he kills, let's say, I'm just making this up, kills Tim Drake. And they're like, whoa, okay, this is serious. You guys can't handle it.
And at that point, Batman, who has been not helping either side.
Because he might be depressed or
he's dealing with his own thing. Also, he's like, because he's Batman, he doesn't want to admit that he's made a mistake in who he's selected, right? Mm-hmm. Batman's always the forward-thinking, tactical guy, and he picked a psychopath. He's not going to want to then turn around.
There's a reason why he picked a psychopath, though. I guess I omitted for storytelling purposes, but it was kind of like a honorable thing. He just didn't want Nightwing to face Bane.
Yeah.
And end up dying. So that's why he chose Azrael. It's almost like he was setting a lamb to slaughter by choosing Azrael instead.
Except Azrael turned out to be way stronger than he thought.
Exactly. So his plan, quote unquote, backfires.
Yeah.
I think that'd be a great story to tell. And it doesn't really matter how long it is, but I think the arc itself could be beautifully told. Like I said, in a Civil War type scenario where you have two sides who are supposed to be on the same side going against each other. You still have the villains operating as they are, and the Justice League comes in. Yeah. You get to see all the different bad allies come out the shadow and pick a side because they're tired of either one side is tired of seeing Gotham things being done the same way in Gotham, and then you have the other side going, hey, the way we've been doing it is fine. There's nothing wrong with it. It's actually honorable.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot to be told here. I would definitely, if there were ever to sort of retcon or try a different alternate universe, I don't know what does DC call their did they ever call it an alternate universe in DC?
I don't know.
Like Elseworld. It's just usually something else.
Yeah, they have the Elseworlds, and they just have their other Earths. Like Earth.
Other Earths. Yeah,
they have like Earth 1, 2, 3. Like I actually have the multiverse book where they depict all the different Earths. But
yeah, I don't like their way of. Anyway, it's okay. I'll let that one go. But yeah, if they ever wanted to do an alternate reality sort of Batman story, I think this would be a good one to tell. And just start from that point.
I think that was a really good one.
That was a pretty awesome one.
That was an interesting idea.
We definitely talked about it really long because I just noticed what time. That was awesome.
All right, so we'll go into the discussion now?
Yeah, man. I mean, we were clamoring to do it earlier on.
Yeah.
Toby, you wanted to jump in and you...
So this volume of 6 issues is called The Epiphany, and it was a friggin' nightmare.
Yeah.
I had a hard time finishing this. I knew we had to read it for the show, and I had a hard time. Like 3 issues in, I was like, oh my God. I didn't even, how sometimes you're reading something that's so good and you want to go back because you want to understand what you just read?
Yeah.
Reading this, I didn't understand anything I was reading for the first issue and a half. Because I'm like, why are we starting here? Why is Martian Manhunter telepathically sending his thoughts to the world? I didn't understand at the very beginning. Was he sending it to everyone in the world, or just the Justice League was hearing his thoughts and hearing him talking about he's a weapon? How did he come across that knowledge? Was that ever told to us at the beginning?
No, that's the thing is like, so one thing, the reason why I chose this book is because I know that everyone in this room likes Martian Manhunter.
Right.
And I do find that this was like the only thing in recent memory that was his book and not someone else's book that he was tagging along. It wasn't Justice League of America. It wasn't JL. It wasn't, what's the space one? Stormwatch. So that's why I wanted to do it. And I also wanted to confirm whether or not I was crazy or not about whether or not this was a good idea or not. Because when I remember reading it, I was like, eh. And then when I read it again, I was like, am I the only one that thinks that this is like not a good idea?
Okay. So is there an issue leading into this?
No, that's the thing. This is like what you get is what you get. And like, I feel, because I've actually read the whole run, the 12 issues. I can say 7 to 12 becomes very clear and direct. I feel like maybe the reason why they wrote the story how they did, which if this was the purpose, then they hit what they were supposed to do.
Yeah.
Is that you're reading a character who's spliced into 6 different characters, and they all don't know what's going on. They're all confused. They're trying to make the reader feel like they're one of the pieces.
Is it 6?
Or sorry, 4.
There's the old man.
No. So there's 5. There's actual Martian Manhunter where he kills himself. There's the old man. There's the thief, the young thief girl. Yeah. There's Mr. Biscuits.
Yeah.
And then there's then there's Agent Wessel.
Vessel, yeah.
Wessel, whatever his name is. And you're reading it and like, and reading it the second time out, I'm like, oh, you're trying to make us feel, I'm assuming you're trying to make us feel like how John, like these characters feeling, or you're just the worst writer in the world. Yeah. Because the thing about this is, it was,
like the character. I don't understand that.
Because the characters, if you're talking to the characters, for example, when Wessel is being talked to, he's like, you're like when there's like this one moment where Martian Manhunter approaches him in like thought, and he's like, "Yo, you're me." He's like, "No, I'm not." He's like, "Yo, you're me." "No, I'm not. I have a family. I have this.
I have a brother from Baltimore,
and this and that." And he's like, "No, you're not. Sorry." Boom. And that's when one of the very cool, because the one thing I do think that a plus out of this book, because I feel like we're going to go a lot more negatives, I thought a lot of the artistry was really cool. And like one of them was when he was like merging the Earth and the moon, the Mars into one, and that became like Wessel's brain, like his head. There's like a specific panel for it. Mm. Like you saw when you're reading that, like he's completely confused. Mr. Biscuits, he's completely like, even though he knows what's going on, he knows that something's wrong. He has no idea how to correct what's going on. The spy girl, she saw an alien for the first time, and she's alone. She's talking to nobody.
Yeah.
And she's completely lost. And I feel like maybe they were trying to do that to the reader. But in essence, another thing that I personally didn't like about this book, I think the story's a good idea. I think it's a bad idea that you did this to Martian Manhunter. Like, I think it's a cool idea to be like, oh,
like an original character.
Yeah, like this. Like this is. I call this the Thor syndrome. Like when they decide, hey, so we want a girl to be. We need a new female character instead of taking like Lady Sif or creating another Asgardian. Yeah. We're just going to strip Thor of his power and give it to what's her name, the nurse.
Oh yeah, Jane Foster.
Jane Foster. I feel like this is what that was. We're like, oh,
doctor, by the way.
Doctor, sorry.
Don't downplay Jane.
I thought she was the nurse. Sorry.
Show some, put some respect on her name.
Sorry, but I'm just feeling that's what they did. It's like we have this really good idea, but we need to put a name behind it to get people's attention. Oh, it makes logical sense because he can metamorphosize and change shape. We're going to use this, and I'm like, cool, but not cool because he has a story, and his story is actually really cool. Yeah. He's on Earth for 5 years before the Justice League. He pretends to be a African American cop doing his detective beat, and that's how he learns about the world. And you could have still had a multiple man moment where he sent one of himself, like, I'm going to learn about the gritty part of the world. I want you to learn how to live as the world.
Yeah.
Like, this would have been cool if just two.
Well, okay, let's go back a little bit here. Back to the beginning. So that part still happens, according to as far as I understand, he still is that. The part you were talking about where he comes to Earth as a detective, and that part was not retconned in this story.
It doesn't seem to be.
Right, so that's still part of his mythology, his mythos.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This issue or this run starts out with him trying to stop a plane from being blown up or whatever, from crashing.
Yeah.
And during this event, this is literally how the story opens. During this, he starts to talk about how he realizes that he's a weapon, and he's had an epiphany, and he's aware that like the Martians and try to come back and conquer Earth, and he's sending his thoughts telepathically to the team so they can hear him, and how like he needs to kill himself and get rid of himself so that they don't succeed in their plan, they being the Martians. So literally you're thrown into this and you're like,
what?
Whoa.
Yeah, what is going on?
What is happening? Yeah.
The major, and you just described that perfectly, and here's my major problem with it. Why did you send a telepathic message to everyone to come and stop you to do something that you needed to do to stop something worse from happening? Like, why warn the Justice League? Is it something he couldn't control that message went out? Like, I didn't understand why he sent that message and then went to... What, he's afraid the Justice League would have looked for him? No, it doesn't matter. You're trying to destroy yourself because you're a weapon. Like, it didn't make sense.
He could have done it in secrecy because, again, after he sends out this message, he tries to find a way to kill himself.
Yeah.
Obviously, the Justice League is going to hear this and go, our friend needs our help. Let's go find him.
Yep.
They find him about to, like, kill himself, and then he puts thoughts in their head and projects a reality into their head.
The most beautiful battle. I gotta say, though.
It was a cool battle.
That was well drawn, and that fight, had it really happened, would have been one of the most epic battles in comic book. Yeah. He turns into this hulking beast of a monster, and the Flash and Wonder Woman. Who's the third?
Superman's there.
No, Superman's there, but he wasn't fighting. It was someone else. Oh, Cyborg.
Yeah.
Cyborg, the Flash, and Wonder Woman are having this insane battle with this beast. And then Superman walks outside and he sees the three of them just standing there, and he's like, where's John? And they're just, and then Wonder Woman's just like, you must see it, Clark. The most glorious of battles. And I'm like, oh my God. It was hilarious. See, those little things were great. but the things that led to those little things didn't even make sense. Like, why did you tell them to show up?
It's
to
a perfect example. Like, I know we've said it before, and you guys are a bit more of a fan than this than I am. I'm always liking the backstory a little bit more, but you guys are always saying it's good to be dropped into the situation. You don't hold on.
Yeah,
you like to be dropped. This is dropped into the situation and not be told the backstory. This is one of those situations that they tried to do it and they failed doing that.
Yes.
Yeah, it wasn't executed well.
You should have had an issue 0 about Mars.
Yes, that's why. Remember how I said, was there an issue leading into this? It's because of that. It doesn't mean it's an origin story, but sometimes you have something as vague as this, you need a little bit of a lead-in.
Yeah, because that's the thing. Toby and I usually say we don't want origin stories. This is like a broken origin story because it's an origin story where they don't explain the lead into the origin. They kind of just tell you, oh, here's this guy. He needs to kill himself. Find out why. It's like, what? And then so here's another thing, and maybe you guys can explain this to me because I didn't really get it. Yeah.
Was he, before he put himself into this vaporizer thing, whatever this weapon is, was he already split as people?
Yes.
And then he killed his original form?
What happened from
I didn't understand that either.
From what I read, because again, like, you know, I've read the whole thing, so I know a little bit before, but from my understanding, he arrived on Earth. He seemed to memory wiped himself. So he arrived on Earth. He separated himself because, which they touch upon. He's like, because he knew that the Martians were doing something evil. FY, the whole weapon of mass destruction, for people who have not read this, is like,
so he knew it from the.
He knew it from the beginning because, and again, I don't want to spoil anything because the actual in issue 7 or 8 or whatever, when they actually tell the story of how he was created, is actually very unique and cool. If anything, if I knew which issue it was, I'd tell you guys, just go to that issue, read it, because it is, and then double back, because it is really cool.
So he knew coming to Earth, as soon as he came to Earth, he's like, oh crap, I'm a weapon, I'm going to split myself up. He knew right away.
And then he like memory wipes himself.
Why would you do that?
Because he's trying to make it so that because he knows that the Martians, in order to do what they want, and a little spoiler here, so if you guys don't want to hear it, listeners don't want to hear it. I was
going to read this.
The whole point of this is that Mars is destroyed, and they're like, if we create John to do this cataclysmic event, Earth will be destroyed and will be repopulated.
Yeah.
With that being said, you find out eventually that John, although John is a person, he was a green Martian. This version of himself is like kind of
bioengineered,
kind of a bioengineered clone of sorts.
Yeah, magically bioengineered.
Yeah, like it's weird because, like, you know, Martians are like that. Like, he gave him as a person gave himself up, but by doing so, he took in a bunch of other Martians to become what is known as Martian Manhunter, John Jones.
Oh my gosh.
So with all this, that's the thing. Is like, this wasn't necessary for me. It's like, again, I think the concept of the story would have been good for a new character. Whether that character would have been continued or a new character on the Justice League, who knows? There are good things about this story.
Sorry, super quick. You know who they could have done this story with? Miss Martian.
Yes.
And then that would
have
explain
made so much sense.
Because if you did it with Miss Martian, where she's a white Martian the whole time, and then you find out later on that that's just a weird cover story, but she was actually this, and Martian Manhunter accepts her because he knows her true backstory.
That would have been good.
And then you see this whole story through her eyes, and Martian Manhunter then comes and helps her, or whatever the case may be. That would be more interesting. But instead they did it with Martian Manhunter, and it's so, like you said, convoluted.
It's weird.
This insane story. Rob Williams is definitely trying to revamp the character because I don't agree with this, but I think people don't find Martian Manhunter as interesting as a character.
I agree with the popular vote that you're saying, but I disagree as a reader.
Exactly,
I agree with exactly what you're saying.
And my thing with Martian Manhunter is I just think it comes down to the fact that they've just never written him. They've never given him a consistent, like, comic, a run. And I get that, because he probably seems too similar to the Kryptonian.
Right.
But if you...
Except he's not the last of his kind.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? There's definitely a way you can tell this, and I'm not, gonna say that I have the best idea as to how to do it, but what they've done so far isn't it.
I feel like if they did a noir story...
Yep.
where he's a detective, like we talked about. It's a noir-style detective story, still set in modern time, but just kind of darker and grimier. And it's just like this young black cop who's trying to figure out his stuff, who also happens to be Martian Manhunter. So, but he doesn't look like Martian Manhunter. He this is like the 5 years leading to.
Yeah, it would be a great prequel book.
Yeah.
It's the only prequel book that should be in existence right now.
Yeah,
and I don't think I can't believe that's never been done.
Well, I know, right? Like, for all maybe we're wrong and this has been done, but as far as I know, I've never seen it.
There's a few, I've never read any of them, but there are like about 3 or 4 other Martian Manhunter books, but I've never read what they are about.
Yeah. But what I'm describing is like a full-on 5 years before. He is always in human form as this black dude. The only time he's in Martian Manhunter form is probably when he is near fire or something like that and starts to revert or fear.
Or he has to fight something that's so big that he has to do it.
Yeah. And I'm wondering, this 2018 run that they're doing of Martian Manhunter that I read the first issue of, I'm wondering if that's what they're trying, because in that one he's a cop. He's always in human form. He has a partner. It looks like it's set because the woman has like a beehive hairdo, like that big high updo.
Yeah.
And it kind of seems like they're trying to do a throwback. My only gripe with that one though is the backstory to that, the flip side story. Whenever they go to Mars to show the Martian side, he's like a cop on the take.
Oh, that's how it works.
Ooh, oh, dude. Okay, all right.
You found one?
Yes. Wow. As recently as December 2018, there will be a Martian Manhunter book called Martian Manhunter, and it's actually going to be written by Steve Orlando and Riley Rossmo. Launched in December.
Yeah, that's the one I read.
That's the one you read, the 12-issue series?
Yeah, I only read the first issue. I didn't love the art, and I don't like the Martian backstory. I like the human story so far.
But it might be a slow burn.
Yeah, I know. I like I said, I only read the first issue. But sorry, Tobi, I'll let you continue.
It's just going to be a re-examination of his origins, emotional journey, and his detective story on Earth, as you were just saying.
Yeah.
So I hope, I mean, based on what you're already telling me, I'm like, oh crap, they're already doing it wrong.
Well, the thing is,
I would hope that's what's...
The human side of it sounds interesting. The human side is good. It's the weird, like, Martian backstory where he's, like, there's one panel or a couple panels or a page where, like, someone that he's on the take with or that he's working with calls him and he's like, I told you never call me when I'm with my family. And it's kind of this weird, like, he seems like a crooked cop, and I'm like, why are they doing a crooked cop?
Because their explanation here, and if you here it says, in the past, John has been too perfect. One of the reasons people have not connected with him, as far as they think anyway, because that's stupid.
Yeah, I don't think
they're saying one of the reasons people have never connected with him is because he was a perfect, upright cop on Mars, and yes, his family died, but it was not his fault. And then he came to Earth, and he was perfect. What? So the reason you're trying to write him as take this angle is because you felt he was too perfect?
But isn't Superman too perfect? Like, Superman was
That
raised
makes
in Midwest America, grew up a farm boy, and is called the Boy Scout. Like, what? I don't understand. With that logic, you should be rewriting Superman to have been a bully when he was in school.
Red Sun.
Red Sun style. Like, he's just a jerk and an asshole, and then eventually he grows up and realizes he should be better with his powers. Like, I don't get the take of like they're too perfect, so let's make them anyways.
Now, because of how poorly and underwritten he is, I think in this case I'm going to make an exception and go, hey, tell me a Krypton story, but a Mars story. Just tell me the story of Mars, where how did the white Martians and the green Martians and this whole dynamic of their race
and red Martians
Martians before John Johns is sent to Earth. I would actually want to know that, and that might help me understand his motives and his motivation to come to Earth. It doesn't have to be long. It could be 6 issues, right? The first volume. And then from there, you tell me his detective story now that we know what's happening. Because it feels like they are trying not to do an origin story, but we don't know enough on John anyway to begin with to write a good John story.
Yeah.
I think in this case, the exception needs to be made that an origin story is needed for John.
Yeah, because for now, like, you know what it is that when you say the word, like, example, if I say the following names, I bet in a whole 2 seconds you'll be able to say what the origin story is: Flash, Batman, Superman, Wolverine,
Wonder Woman.
I'm trying to think of even on the Marvel side. You could say Deadpool. You could say Iron Man. You could say Captain America. All these guys, when you say them, not just us nerds, but even like average people. Like you could go turn to someone and you say, "How did Batman become Batman?" Well, his parents died.
Yeah,
people will say that. John Jones, you're like even comic book fans would be like,
You don't know, and I think
a detective, right?
Yeah,
like, that's like the reaction.
Yes.
So like they need to. Like, he's one of the very few characters. I agree with you. This is one of those you got to put it in the sand. You got to write it down. You got to make it clear what's going on. Because now, especially after this 12-issue series, which FYI turns into a bit of a Power Rangers thing at the end with like big mechs and stuff, which is like kind of weird. It doesn't work.
It already looks like they have big, like when we shouldn't talk about it.
I'm not gonna. It's past what we're reading, but and sorry for super spoilers for only people who read from 1 to 6, but
I mean, if anything, people have read the whole thing.
Yeah, but there are some cool things. Like example, I thought the art was pretty good. I love the art from when he was changing and became the huge dragon to save.
Yes, that was cool.
That was like, I was like, that's what actually, when I first was flipping through it when I bought it years ago, I was like, okay, I'm sold because this looks cool. The tease of the fighting of the Justice League I thought was cool because that's the closest fight that we've gotten, because in the New 52, fun fact, they're in when they're doing the Justice League in the New 52, they excluded John from the lineup.
Shocking.
He wasn't in part of the lineup. But when they're talking to Cyborg about putting him on the team, they have a reference where I think they're talking to Superman. They're all having a conversation, and they're like, yeah, but don't you remember what happened the last time we tried to have a new person join the group? And then you see a splash page, and it's not just 3 of them. It's all 6. So that would be Superman, Wonder Woman, Flash, Green Lantern, Batman, and Aquaman. They're all fighting John. And you see like these 2 or 3 panels, and I'm like, I flip the page and it goes back to him. I'm like, no. And they never go back to that moment.
That's kind of cool.
And you're there and you're like,
it's like horribly cruel, but
I want to see this because
he's one of the few, you know how we always talk about like this character's OP, or like he's one of the few who has such an immense power set and he's just underpowered.
Yeah, because people are like, fire, you're done. You're like,
yeah, he's underutilized. It's insane to me. Insane. And I hope that this series that came out in December does end up doing it justice, or at least just help someone see, this is close, but I could make this even better, because he needs a better origin story. And this is probably one of the few times you'll hear me say, I want an origin story, before you give me all this crap that changes what I or any fan really comes to understand as his. Actually, we can't, because I don't even know what his origin is. So you tell me these stories, I have no attachment to them. There's no emotional attachment. There are no stakes for me reading this.
Because the only origin story I know of him is the one where he gets pulled from Mars when the planet is dying. He's the last of his kind. He ends up in a lab where this doctor has him for a long time.
I didn't even know that one.
Yeah, from what I understand, that's how his story starts. There's like a doctor, he's in a lab. There's like a girl that worked with the doctor. That was like the first woman he ever met on Earth. The doctor was the first man. I think the either they die or someone dies, and then that's when he becomes a detective. That as far as I remember, that's how his story starts. I could be wrong, but
I find the best origin story that I've ever seen or read. And that meaning, like, I saw it, it made sense, it made me want to know more, it made perfect sense with how he exists in our universe, was in Justice League. Justice League, there is a few, I mean, you have to watch the whole series to be able to see all of them, because I don't think it's all per se in one episode. I don't think it is. But they have a moment where he's in a dream world where he's seeing his past again, and you see his daughter and you see his wife, and he goes through the emotion of like, this is wrong, this is not what happened, and then like, because he's realizing what's happening, whatever dream state he's in is starting to become the reality, so that he snaps out of whatever he's in. It's like having like Starro on you. He has like a Starro moment, but it's not with Starro.
Okay.
And I saw it and I'm like, thank you, because that makes sense. And it even says like, that's why when I came to Earth, I was in hiding, because I didn't know what to do, and I didn't know, and I'm alone, and I needed to be alone. And then you're like, all right, that's good, but they need to do that. It's one of the very few times, just like in Batman animated series with Harley Quinn, you did it right there. Bring that into the comic books.
Yeah.
We just need a significant, a distinct point of truth, just one, so that once you have that set established background and that established backstory to him, then you can diverse it, you can change it, you can have different variations of that. Then we don't need an origin story. But unfortunately, we haven't even spent much time talking about this comic book. There's a reason why.
I know.
Well, the other thing is the thing that also was annoying, because the reason why we're not talking about it much, it's very confusing as fuck.
Yeah,
it's very, very confusing.
I wouldn't even know what to try and explain to you.
It's convoluted. They give you the surprise right away. That's another problem. They tell you right away, I'm a weapon of mass destruction. You're like, well, okay. Yeah. You're already on a bad foot. And the only other quote unquote, other than trying to figure out how many pieces he is. Yeah. The only other secret is he has that kid in the wheelchair with the dead mom. And the whole time I was there, I'm like, okay, you're obviously one of two things. Either A, you're one of the white Martians on the Earth that you're just pretending to do this so you get close, or B, you're the angry side of John. You can only be one or the other.
And the other thing that kind of bothered me is that this kid has convinced the Wessel guy, the FBI agent, that, you need to bring me with you, because what if I'm an important part of this? Who cares? The thing with the FBI agent is...
I actually didn't understand their story.
He's not a good FBI agent, if you ask me.
The FBI agent is seeing all these people, and he realizes, there are monsters, and I am here, and I'm connected to this story somehow. And I have a family. I have a brother in Baltimore. He keeps telling himself that. Even later on, he says it after he knows for a fact. After his world's been exploded and he's been told the truth, he still talks about his brother. Because at one point, he's like, I can see Baltimore from here. Who cares,
yeah, it's kind of like, what's it called? You tell yourself a mantra over and over again to keep you grounded so you don't lose your mind.
But in my head... in my head, I'm just like, but I don't understand. You're an FBI agent. There are obviously people chasing after you. I get that. But at the same time, you don't want to actually be a part of this. Why did you get on the plane with Mr. Biscuits and this little... Well, you didn't bring a little girl, but you and Mr. Biscuits get on a plane. You're walking through the airport with parts of Mr. Biscuit in bags. You know that looks weird. You even walked into the airport knowing full well you were probably going to get caught. All of these things, it's only when he's in the airport that he starts to question why they're not being caught. They didn't show us the scenes leading up to him going in, or the scenes where Mr. Biscuit's like, I need to cut myself in half and be put in 2 bags, and then you have to carry me into an airport where there are agents who are already looking for us and most likely going to be in the airport.
I was actually going to say, that was actually the one saving grace of the book. I really enjoyed the parts with Mr. Biscuit. I don't know if it's because he was quirky. I don't know if it was just because it was so zany that it was entertaining. Because Mr. Biscuit is one of these...
funny side of him.
Yeah, he's he's obviously he's more buggish.
Yeah, Alicia, the girl, calls him stick insect.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of cool. It's kind of funny that it's a little girl that's like, okay, I'll help you. You need biscuits. That's the one thing I'm like, I don't understand. So some random bug tells you to get biscuits and he's going to give you money. I mean, don't get me wrong. You're a kid, sure. You're easily manipulated, but I don't understand how this happens.
Creepy.
I know. I don't understand.
That's exactly what happens. Kids,
But he also leaves her behind to he knows for a fact there were people chasing him. She was with him when he was being chased, and he tells her, "I'm leaving you behind to protect you." No, you left her behind in an airport by herself. This young child with no safety, no security. Why did you think that was a good idea?
And the other thing about this, I think the other reason why this was also kind of confusing, if you really think about it, not a lot actually happened in the 6 issues.
No,
it's a day. It's a day.
Nothing.
It's at best a day.
It's actually really aggravating when the reason I read issue 7 and 8 because it's issue 6 kind of ends on a cliffhanger. But in my head, I was just like, but you didn't tell me anything in 6 issues. You literally just wrote a confusing story where you bring people together, all of them once again confused and lost. And I get that if you're the writer and you were trying to make us feel how they felt through the story.
You did a good job.
You did a good job. But at the same time, and yes, you definitely made it that I needed to read the next issue because I didn't understand. But you shouldn't make it that I want to read the next issue out of anger for not getting what I needed out of the first 6 issues. Mm-hmm. You should make it that I want to continue reading because it was very well written and interesting. The epiphany here is you're a bad writer in this situation. That's my
all due respect.
All due respect, Raw Williams. The epiphany was, fuck you. I'm reading issue 7 out of anger, not because I like your writing. That to me is annoying.
I would love to see if he's ever been questioned about this and what he had to say.
I feel like telling you guys to read like the last 5 pages. You're not going to like the last 5 pages.
Well, I'm happy that it ends there, though. But okay, did it end because it got canceled, or did it end because it was only supposed to be 12 issues?
No, it was supposed to only be 12 issues. Okay. It concludes, but if you read the last 5 pages, it doesn't really, like, it concludes in the sense that the story ended. It doesn't conclude what's going on with John. So you're just there, you're like, so you're kind of whole, but you're still lost. Like, it's like being like, well, I corrected everything, but it's like, in order to make everything right, I had to actually make myself the last entity. I have to say entity because technically by the end of it, you find out that he's like, you know, like I said, he's a Martian that was genetically engineered on. The ending is him admitting like, well, now I had to do something and now I'm officially really the last existence of Mars. And you see a look on his face like he's like super depressed about it.
All I know is Alicia as a character wasn't worth it. Like
which one was that?
The little girl.
The little girl. Oh, because she becomes. Oh, wait, did you read the?
Yeah. I saw what happens to her next. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. We'll leave it.
Because if you only read the first 6 issues, she essentially gets killed. Like from your perspective, these white Martians or whatever Martians show up, and they've made it that she's invisible to the people in the airport. She's screaming bloody murder, somebody help me, and then she just gets taken and you don't know what happens. And in my head I was just like, how are you going to do a little child like it's,
wait, that wasn't a psychological projection?
No, that's
what they did to her. She's running through the airport because she's with them. They leave. Yeah. He kisses her on the forehead, but then those guys make it that no one sees her in the airport as she's running around screaming.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
And then the last panel is her on the floor crying, screaming with her hands up, and everyone in the airport just walking around and ignoring her. And I'm like, what the f*** is this story you're writing? Why is this little girl being...
I mean, there's more to it afterwards.
I know, yeah.
But like...
But I mean, that's what I'm saying. If I didn't read past it and that was the last panel for her, I'd be like, well, Mr. Biscuit did you wrong because he didn't leave any form of protection for you. He gave you money and cookies and walked off. What the... And she even says, I'm a child. This is nothing for me.
Yeah.
And then proceeds to eat the cookies that were with the dirty money in the bag, by the way. Something that I feel a parent would have been like, no, you can't eat those cookies anymore. They're loose in a bag with money. Like, sorry, the parental side of my brain is just like, that is filthy. But all that to say, like, it's just, they don't do any of... And I know I say this every once in a while, and it's not because I'm trying to be on soapboxes, but it's just something I'm noticing now because I am more aware of it. The female characters in this comic don't survive. Pearl is the only one out of the identities.
But there's only really 2 if you think about it.
That's
another thing.
There's only 2 of them, and out of the 2, one of them is a little girl who possibly is murdered in an airport in front of people, and the other one is Pearl, the only one who turns into an alien and loses her female form.
Well, she's still drawn as a female Martian.
I'm saying in the sense that the human mold, the mind, is still a human man with a cape who thinks he's a superhero, which was kind of funny.
Yeah.
Vessel is just Vessel, who then realizes he can use his powers because he uses his powers, the telepathic powers, towards the end. The Mr. Biscuit is a stick figure weird creature, so he always was.
Mm-hmm.
Pearl was the only one that was a female, like, embodiment of him. I guess the heart was what she was supposed to be.
Yeah.
And she's the one that, the first one to come to the realization and then get changed. But there's no women. Like, yes, she's a female version of the male alien. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. This whole experience to me was equivalent to a shoulder shrug.
Yeah.
Like it had some funny, some maybe cute moments because of the interaction between Mr. Biscuits and Little Girl, but even then I was kind of creepy.
Yeah.
I just felt trapped in a graphic novel that felt too long but had no substance.
I'm trapped in a graphic novel.
You know what I mean? Like that's what it felt like. And every time I was able to escape it, I didn't want to go back in. Yeah. But I knew I had to read 6 issues to be able to discuss it somewhat. So it took me a while. It took me, and they're not long. So this is how bad this is to me. It took me like 3 different times to read like all 6. So I read 2 first, then another 2, and another 2. It was I don't know, but I think we need a refresher on how we write this character. I know he has a lot of power sets, and maybe they don't want to make him too OP, but how about we just see all of it? Like, give me a story that shows how he chooses to use all different aspects of his powers. But I just start from the beginning.
I wonder if the reason why DC doesn't do it, because they're scared that means like all of a sudden like Superman's not going to be viewed as.
Well, yeah, he's stronger than Superman in my opinion.
Oh no, he is, or he's at least on a very strong equivalent, because obviously Superman with his
invisibility.
No, but like Superman with his like heat vision or whatever could probably obviously mess around with John, the whole fire thing.
Right.
But like
that's the one
he's
thing.
Always been a guy who's like I'm toe to toe.
Martian Manhunter's disadvantage to Superman is that his quote unquote kryptonite is easier to recreate than kryptonite,
and it's very much more crippling.
It's just fire
because it's not just
it's something that you can easily like a Boy Scout in the woods with 2 sticks and a stone.
You could buy it. You could buy it on the debt for $1.
Yeah,
you know
exactly. They should have made him come from a different planet. I don't know. I guess because Superman's weakness is his home planet as well.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Same with Martian Manhunter, except his again is in our solar system and easier to find.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we need to really talk about any supporting cast here because all his side pieces, as I choose to call them, are all
side
they're all useless characters.
Yeah,
the plot left a lot to be desired.
Yeah.
There wasn't really much there. He's a doomsday device, and he split himself up into 6 or 5 different characters, whatever you want to call it, so that they don't actually use him they don't find. They're not not Dave, but the Martians aren't able to find him to use him as that weapon.
Even though they seem to be able to know him. Because every time the Martians see one of the personalities, they immediately go, I can see you. I know who you are.
Exactly.
But the people are like, what are you talking about? Like when Pearl's on the side of that building and the Martian comes into the room and Pearl's about to rob the guy comes into the room. I don't even know if the guy was coming in to kill the Saudi prince. I think he was coming because he knew Pearl was there and kills the prince and then tells her, I can see you. And she's like, what the hell? And freaks out. And then lands, this is when she should have realized something was wrong, when she landed a 70-story fall.
And not died.
And not die.
Or jumping from, like, land to, like,
to a
100-yard away boat.
Yeah.
Like,
but she's like, I guess I could do this now.
Yeah.
I was like, what is going on?
Oh, my God.
My secret identity.
Yeah.
Is the Justice League worth talking about here? I mean, they make a brief appearance.
Like I said, my favorite part is just that cool fight, in the mine.
That was the main. Okay, you're right.
That was my favorite part. I thought that was super cool, but that was about it.
That's about it. And honestly, in these first 6 issues, I have nothing good to say. Nothing good.
Sadly.
That's pretty much it for me. Anything else you guys want to add to this?
No, I think we can go into the next segment.
If anything, my last comments will be for final thoughts.
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay.
So what are we doing next?
We will be doing best, favorite, worst. So I took up a topic that we've actually discussed. We briefly in the past mentioned that it'd be a cool topic to go over, and the fact that this is a Justice League character and the Justice League shows up. We're going to do the best, favorite, worst of the supporting characters, let's say, of the Justice League. What I mean is that we're just going to exclude the founding members being where you don't get to use Batman, Flash, Green Lantern, Hawkgirl, John Jones, Superman, or Wonder Woman. I made a reference that you guys could use the Justice League Unlimited cast, but technically you can use anyone you want.
I think Aquaman should be left out too.
I agree with that because he's very important.
I think Aquaman technically was one of the original.
Exactly.
He was one of the original, but in the show, based off the show, he was just like, I'm part of you guys, but I'm going to do with Atlantic stuff.
No, I know, but if anything, we should clarify. We're doing the DCAU, the DC Animated Universe. Justice League.
Yeah.
So if you got, the cartoon that we grew up with and whatnot,
yeah. So
I'd leave out a few more people, but I won't overcomplicate.
Well, but you throw them out via you not using them in your options.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
So
like Green Arrow, for example.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But anyways,
so
we'll go into it. So we'll start with best. You guys got a best?
Wow.
I know exactly what my choices are. So
best is a deep one because I don't know if there's necessarily a best after the top 10.
No, but again, that's why it's supporting characters.
I'm gonna wait a little bit if someone else wants to go.
We'll talk to you.
I know and I've said this before. Actually, no, I think that character is my favorite. So no, I don't know my best.
Okay,
so, I know who my favorite is. I'll tell you.
Okay. So I'm gonna say best based off of storyline and how important the character is, also how strong the character is, and the relevancy to the show. I'm going to say it's Supergirl, because Supergirl drives a lot of episodes. It's because of her that Power Girl ends up existing with Cadmus and everything, and it drives essentially almost half to almost a full season of Justice League Unlimited, her story. And it's her trying to figure out all the answers. And it's the first time you really see someone who's not part of the original founding members truly kind of taking a leadership role, even though she's not taking leadership. That being said, she's also, out of all the supporting cast members, probably the strongest. Beside maybe Dr. Fate in regards to power level.
Yeah.
So for me, I would say in regards to best being the most important, the most useful character, I'm saying it's Supergirl.
If we're going based off of that, then I'm going to say Cyborg. Because Cyborg also...
Oh yeah, he was.
He was in the Justice League.
Yeah.
He drives a lot of story as well. As far as the mother box and all these technologies and all these things that actually comes into the Justice League lore that became permanent, a lot of it was because of the Cyborg side story.
That's true.
So I guess in terms of best and what we have to pick, I would have to pick him to join that mantle as well.
Okay. I wasn't sure, but I definitely do think, and you mentioned him, Dr. Fate. I think Dr. Fate is one of the best characters on the team and is underutilized a lot.
Oh, he frustrates. I don't know what it is. It makes me angry.
I think the part that usually annoys people with that character is very much, and it makes sense. It's Naboo the Helmet that takes over somebody else. So Dr. Fate isn't really. Dr. Fate is a merger of a character and the helmet.
Yeah.
It's so conflicting to root for it because it's such malicious.
Yeah, he essentially is kidnapped and forced someone to be the body for him to use his power through. So I get why that is hard for him to be the best. But at the same time, I guess it's one of those characters who's, I'm doing this for the greater good of the world, because without a body, this power that I have is useless, and I'm actually really powerful, is what he's kind of trying to tell people. And I get it. It definitely sucks that someone has to give up their life for it, but
it's for the greater, because at the end of the day, technically, it's not like he's saying, oh, put on my helmet, I'm going to take it over, but I'm going to destroy the world. Put on my helmet, sure, you're going to have to take a back seat, but I'm saving the world.
Yeah. Like, and so also,
you get conflicted.
I'm healing you. Like, you will not feel pain, you will not be injured. Like,
you'll just age.
Yeah.
When you take it off.
Yeah, exactly. That's
only when you take it off, too.
Yeah, you don't even age. It like you said, it's really when you take off the helmet that, because that's the same thing, right? With Zatanna, what we saw, we had that episode recently, we're all watching Young Justice this season, where you saw that the father is only aging, well, he's aged, but it makes sense because Zatanna's like a teenager now. But he's only been aging every year when he sees her and takes the helmet off for his birthday? His birthday.
Yeah. Or for an anniversary that they created between themselves.
Yeah. So yeah, Dr. Fate is, I think, one of the best characters in the DCAU version.
Okay.
My favorite now.
Yeah, go for it.
The Question. I've told you guys before.
Of course.
That's my boy. The Question is easily one of the best characters on that show. He's my favorite because when it all comes down to what you know, the Question is just hanging out there being like, I actually know quite a bit. You guys all think it's conspiracy, but I've been investigating behind the scenes. And it's just this constant weird story of, he almost feels like the mythological character of Cassandra from the one who falls for Apollo. And then, no, Apollo falls for her and she scorns his love. She's just like, I don't want you. So Apollo gifts her the power of sight. The only thing is, no one will ever believe what she's saying. So she can see the future, but no one believes what she's saying. And that's like the question. He through his research, he finds the links to everything, but everyone thinks he's crazy because of how he presents it, because it looks like such a crazy conspiracy theory thing. Like, he has the ropes on the wall.
It's also how he talks.
Yeah. He also talks kind of outlandishly nuts and fast-paced and, like, you know. But that's why he's one of my favorites.
Well, I was going to... Oh, sorry, you go, Topes.
Mine, it's going to be short, but I think my favorite is just... It's hard to pick a favorite, but I'm going to go based on how I felt when I first saw him animated. Etrigan.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's pretty awesome.
To me,
so awesome.
He's awesome. Just his call, his battle cry, his backstory, his origin is actually pretty good.
Yeah.
Jason Blood and stuff like that, all the, intricacies of how he became to be Etrigan and the powers that he wields. And how Batman actually seeks his help whenever it comes to supernatural issues with the Justice League and stuff like that. So I'd have to go with Etrigan as my favorite.
I completely.
And he's funny too, so it makes
the cool thing I was about to say. The cool thing about him is that he's being serious, but he's being funny while he's being serious. And they're like, it's
the rhyming. It's hard not to find the rhyming hilarious.
But even just how he's like when he gets angry at things and he's like, no, we got to do this. It's how he says it. He's just like. But no, I would say my favorite, which was going to be tied for also best for me, but I chose to keep it as my favorite. I'm agreeing with Brian. I love the question. I didn't really know the question before this show, and when I watched it, I was like, you're the man. You're hilarious.
Yeah.
Again, he's also he is someone who does tie a lot of ropes together with his little red wires to help the Justice League realize what's going on. And he's just a great all-around character to listen. And honestly, he has my favorite quote, because I've never forgotten this quote, and I think I've even said it on the show. You have Supergirl and him talking, and he makes a reference about, like, oh, I got this. And she's like, wait a minute, I threw that in the garbage. Are you going through my garbage? And he's just like, he looks at her like, go through your garbage. I go through everyone's garbage. And you're like, that's amazing.
Yeah, instead of like trying to make it seem like, no, I didn't go. It's like, no, I go through everyone's garbage. You don't seem to understand.
Yeah, like all of you have dirt, and I'm going to grab all of it, and I just love it.
Because that's it. Like, and I'll make it super quick. He comes across as a poor man's Batman. Because Batman would get the information by spying on you with a satellite. The Question gets the information by going through your trash. Yeah. And that's what I love about it.
Batman Light.
But
I will give a small shout out to one of my favorite episodes, which is a Wildcats episode.
Oh yeah,
which is just it's just about an underground like wrestling ring, and
he's
basically
Black
like
Canary and stuff, right?
Exactly. And it's just one of these things. They're like, why are you doing this? He's like, well, I felt useless, and they're like, no, you trained all of us. We're good because of you. And I was like, oh, that's cool. So a little shout out to him. I would so I'm going to start off with my worst. My worst is going to be very, very quick. Vigilante, you cowboy fuck, get off the show. I really never liked you. I don't like your hat. I don't like your scarf. I don't like your dual wielding.
But he has
your dual wielding pea shooters, but yet you're firing like 20,000 rounds with not one reload.
But he's such a positive character.
If you don't like him, then you don't like Hawkeye.
I don't like Hawkeye.
Weapons, I know. Weapons specialists usually for me are like, meh.
It's
but
just one
such a positive guy.
I don't care. No, you have Vixen's a positive character. Since we have this, I could name. All of them are positive. That's why they're good guys.
I know.
Yeah,
but
there you go.
I mean it in the sense that like Vigilante should definitely not be there.
I think someone took him out with his pinky. I think he went up to like a bad guy and he was like one of these like super bad guys and he literally like flicked him and he went like flying away. I'm like, yeah, like the fly you are, get out of here.
Oh,
and that's my opinion.
I like that guy. I like that guy's gumption.
Screw gumption.
I like that.
I think my worst, man, there's so many ties for worst. I'm gonna put, okay, here's the thing. Two worsts, Plastic Man and Elongated Man.
Because they're the same person.
Literally,
Elongated Man is a good detective.
At one point, Green Lantern says we don't need two stretchy guys because we don't even need one.
Yeah.
And I think just to have, this is probably controversial, but I actually think Shazam is one of the worst Justice Leaguers.
Is it?
You upset a lot of people.
Is it because he's just a repetition, or Like what?
Yes, I mean, sorry, I'm going to say Captain Marvel for the sake of of legacy here. I just don't like the idea of the 10-year-old boy in the body of a man.
Okay.
Like the mind, it's just I think it was cool. Kids. Yeah, but there's no real like. I'm sorry, I know it's a comic book and we have all these levels of fantasy and stuff like that, but this, when you really think about it, is not. I don't know. As imagine you being in the Justice League and you know the person standing next to you is, though he looks like a man, it's a kid in there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you're using a kid to fight, and like, his story just never really resonated with me. I didn't care. If I wanted to be a superhero as a kid, I'd want to still be like me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's not necessarily himself.
But the only cool thing he had in the show, though, in my opinion, is there is an episode where he basically fixed the moral compass of the Justice League. Because at the end of it, he tried to join them, and at the end of the episode, they're like, "Oh, we might join you. We might let you join." And he actually turns around and is like, "I don't want to join because you guys aren't the heroes that I thought you were."
Oh, okay.
And I was like, that always resonated in me. Like, oh, that's cool. But I completely agree with Toby's perspective in the sense that, like, I don't see how. Okay, yeah, you have all your powers, but as a 10-year-old kid, how are you making like world-changing this? How do you get to make the right world-changing decisions? I never agreed with that, so I agree with Toby on how
because he's not mature enough. Yeah. Like he's literally he's being used. You're using a kid. Yeah, he hasn't. There's nothing. Yeah, it's true. He hasn't lived.
Well, that's like the Kingdom Come story, right? The whole idea is that Lex Luthor takes advantage of the fact that he's a child, and like brainwashes him. And then when he grows, and he keeps him like immature and young, and has control over him as he grows into an adult. And then no one messes with Lex Luthor because they realize when he grows when he's an adult, he
endorsed them publicly.
Yeah, when he's an adult, he looks exactly like Shazam, and people realize, oh, that's who Billy Batson was. He was Shazam the whole time. Don't mess with that guy. On my end, my least favorites, or I guess worse, but not really worse, Red Rocket.
I don't even remember.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, you're just doing it on the fact of like no appearance, like he was in the background once.
Check this out. Red Rocket was, and because I remember Red Rocket. Red Rocket is essentially, I don't know if you guys remember, but in Alpha Flight there was a robot at one point.
Marvel?
Yeah, that's Marvel.
Okay.
So Alpha Flight had a guy named Block.
Okay.
Which I don't know why they had this character. So they had Block, and then in what's the other one? I don't remember what team there was, but there was another clunky robot character. Red Rocket is essentially all of those. Every team has a clunky robot character that means absolutely nothing, or it's a guy in a suit, in a clunky suit, who's like an excessively poor version of Iron Man.
So it's a crappy Stripe?
This guy, yes, exactly. On this team, you already have Stripe, so this is the Soviet Stripe. Who like kind of helps out. He's Rocket Red and doesn't really do anything of importance, and was on the team. And they mention it here too. He fights Lobo and gets his suit torn apart. So your suit wasn't even worth anything because you're just a guy in a suit that Lobo could rip apart and essentially just kill you inside. So
I'll support you because it reminds me of another Red Thunder or Red whatever the.
Well, Red Tornado is actually strong though.
Yeah, but
I like Red Tornado.
But you guys know my opinion about Red Tornado.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like this guy isn't even. If you don't like Red Tornado, this guy's an even poorer version of that character. You know what I mean? So
right, fair.
Yeah,
that's right.
All right. Well, that was
so.
Fun.
Those are our worst.
Those are the worst.
Yeah, that was good.
All right.
Final thoughts, kids. Martian Manhunter, Volume 1, 2015, The Epiphany. Final thoughts.
So my opinion, I'll do it very quick. This should have been a different character. It shouldn't have been Martian Manhunter. Yeah. Martian Manhunter should have been done right. I actually kind of agree with Doc's analogy that I think this could have worked as Miss Martian Manhunter.
Agreed.
I think that could have worked.
Yeah.
With that being said, had this been someone else's story, maybe I would have given it about a 3.75 if it was someone else's because I wouldn't have been emotionally invested. But since you took two ideas and most put it in one, I'm going to divide my thing by two. And you guys basically two.
Yeah, you got like two.
You get like
a little
two.
under two.
A little under two, but I'll give you the little smidge because you put Martian Manhunter's name on
it. Final thoughts. If we had an origin story and we had known that this is what it was leading to, like this could have been an event level type scenario, right? We would have known that eventually at some point someone's coming for Martian Manhunter as the weapon.
Yeah.
That's what this should have been, and unfortunately, because we never had that background, we don't even really know much. I've been advocating to know more about Martian Manhunter from time, like from ever.
Yeah.
That I feel like it's just way overdue. We just need that in order to establish further, to make this character exactly who he needs to be, who I think he can be. With that said, I'm just gonna rate this 1.5 out of 5. Terrible.
I like the pause. It's terrible. Like it was like the smoke weed every day pause. It's like, these are my thoughts. Terrible. Yeah, on my end, I gotta say I'm genuinely disappointed, because reading the first issue and seeing the first fight with the Justice League and seeing how powerful. That's the thing, right? They show us how powerful Martian Manhunter is in the first issue. Mm-hmm. He takes on Superman, knocks him down, and then doesn't even take on Wonder Woman, Flash, and Cyborg, but convinces them that, and mentally just throws the image of like, style. Yeah, it's just like, oh yeah, this is what you guys are fighting, and then takes off, and then still kills himself, and it's and when I read that, I was just like, oh, this has some potential. Mm-hmm. And then issue 2 was like someone took a crap. Yeah. Like someone was just like, hey, let's build this first issue up. This is the pilot. They want the network to buy the show. And then immediately you're just like, fire all the writers, fire all the staff, and you just put in kids, and you're like, go wild. We already got the contract signed. We can do whatever we want.
Apes on typewriters.
Yeah. That's what it feels like. It feels like Rob Williams. Sorry.
Yeah, don't hurt Robin Williams' legacy by saying
Rob Williams. It felt like Rob Williams wrote this awesome like script and like treatment for them to introduce them to the idea of the story, and only wrote what he was going to do in the first issue. And then the second issue, he was just like, oh, okay, good, because I didn't actually have any good ideas, and just started throwing stuff out. And then people somehow bought it. So for me, it's a 1.5. Because it's 1.5, and that's only because there's 6 issues, and the first issue is the only one I liked. So it got it got the 1 point, and it gets the 0.5 because I like Martian Manhunter and they tried.
You know what? I'm gonna give it a 0.5 back. So I'm gonna say it's a 2 out of 5 for the artwork.
Oh
yeah. I agree.
Okay.
I'm not going to give it any more because that was my little smidge extra with the artwork.
My 0.5 is my point there. Yeah, I'll pretend my 0.5 is for the artwork then.
I was going to say that, but I'm like, you know what? Every point you mention is probably why I give it a 1.5, and I don't want to discredit the artwork despite the terrible writing and the terrible plot and everything.
Because the other thing is, like, it's one of those situations where, like, I actually wish I was in the writer's room to figure out, like, how did you guys come to this conclusion?
Yeah. Let's storyboard this, guys. Let's have an ideation. Let's have an ideation session. Yeah, like let's.
How did this become a good idea to you? That's what I want to know.
Yeah. Guys, so that's it. That was the final thoughts. What does that average out to? You gave it.
We all gave it 2. No, in the end,
I gave it 1.5. I didn't add the extra 0.5.
Oh, okay. So
I said my original 0.5 is now for that. So for the arts.
So it's 5.5 on 15. So not that great. It's 33.3333%.
God damn. That's definitely a fail in class. Rob, resubmit your paper.
Yeah. Oh, Rob.
Terrible.
But yeah, guys, that's the whole show. I mean, we did have fun discussing it. We didn't necessarily have fun reading it, and I think if anything, that's the fun of this podcast. We get to at least have
they can't all be like either home runs, you know.
We at least got to have a conversation about something and get to poke fun at it. This wasn't Coyotes level, but
no, nothing will be Coyotes level. That's a whole other level.
I will never regret making us read that because that was one of my favorite episodes to listen to.
Go back to season 1, kids. It's a great listen.
Coyotes.
Yeah.
Oh,
still one of my favorites.
Did they even make any more of it?
I don't care.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't care.
Dave, what do you want to tell the people, man, as we sign off?
Well, follow me, Merc_Witta, WITTA_mouth, on Instagram. You could also see me at square-idea.com on our website. We also have Facebook. We have Instagrams. The team is building. 2019 is starting to look like a good year for releases. We're all starting to get our ducks in a row. So if you want some nice independent works, that's a good way to do it. Shout out to the boys working because they're all working really, really hard on their stuff. And in general, support your local comic books. Oh, and you can also find us on Patreon. You could find the Fathom and Trinity on Patreon as well if you want to donate. And again, if not, just go on Patreon. There's a bunch of great independent stuff all over the world on there, so it's really good to check out.
Tobes.
Yeah. If anything, you can follow me on Instagram at @thatfitdude. Mostly fitness stuff, some personal stuff here and there, but usually mostly fitness. If you ever want to, get any workout ideas or anything like that, you can follow me on there. And for anything related to the show, franklinarmstrong.com, and find us on all, outlets, Stitcher, Spotify, Apple Music, and the list goes on.
Yeah, guys, that's it. That's all. Thank you for tuning in, and follow me on Instagram at Brian Holiday, HOLIDAE. We love doing the show, so we'll be back with another one soon. Peace, guys.
Yeah,
that's all.
Deuces.